Hey, what's up, everybody? Pat here. Grateful recovering alcoholic and addict, just like every day, my friends. How is everybody doing? Guys, please subscribe. Hit the like button, leave a comment, and don't forget to share with anybody if they might get something out of it. And I noticed YouTube is dropping a few subscribers, and it's with little one numbers, one or two. But if you watch my videos, just double check and see that you're still subscribed. Other than that, guys, how was everybody today? Hope everybody had a good day. I had another fantastic day, guys. Yeah, let's see. We'll try and figure out the lessons of the day. The first one's pretty obvious, really. I just came back, as I talked about yesterday. I rented the garage over in Medford to do repair work, and I've also talked about how all my tools had all been stolen, 20 years ago, and I understand it's time to start. If I'm going to rent the garage, I'm going to set up all my automotive tools over there, and I need to have a toolbox, obviously, and I'm probably going to need a few of them because I got a lot of tools at this point, and I've just been, picking them up as I go. But they're, I got them in buckets in here in the apartment. I got them in buckets in the truck. I got them in, crates in my storage unit, storage bin down in the basement here. And it's insane. There's still some back at my old job, and it's so, it's so frustrating. And I waste so much time every time I try to do something. Literally, I spend more time trying to find the tools than I do getting stuff done. And that's just the automotive. So I'm just getting back into it now, and I haven't been doing that much of it. So immediately, if I'm going to rent the garage, I'm going to set it up properly. I got my air compressor over there yesterday. Today, I was looking online, and again, I talk about all the time, guys. You can always save money out there, right? And toolboxes are very expensive. So I was looking online. Facebook Marketplace is one of my favorite places to buy and sell. And it can be a pain in the ass because you get a lot of knuckleheads just trying to drive you crazy, and that's going to be part of the lesson here. But there's some really, really good deals out there. So the first one I saw was a 5 foot tall, 14 drawer Craftsman toolbox with roller bearing drawers and the keys and the locks all match and work. $75, and I'm like, oh god, this is going to be gone in a heartbeat. Probably be gone by the time I reach out. But sure enough, I sent the guy a message, and here's the thing, guys. And if you're buying and selling anything on the marketplace, and if you're new to this, one thing people have, the default on the message is, hi, is this still available? Well, understand that every time you put something on there, you get about 100 hi, is this still available? And it drives people crazy. Anybody that buys and sells with regularity on there will typically not respond to anybody that just sends that. And a lot of times it'll say right on the ad, will not respond, is it still available? If the ad is still up, it's typically still available. So I know this, and so I bypass all that. And again, I can see in the picture everything's there. And for $75, guys, it's $1,000 toolbox at $75. You don't want to be a pain in the guy's ass, right? So I literally just sent a message that, hey, great deal. If it's available, let me know when is a good time for you. I'll come by and get it. And that's all I put. And early today, I noticed he had hit me back and said, hey, great, I'm home after 5 o'clock weekdays. So I texted him back and said, great, if you want to send me your address, I will be up there about 5:30 this evening. And sure enough, he hit me back and sent me his address. So I drove up, and hell of a nice guy. He's a mechanic. That was his old toolbox. He's now got a shop down the road. He's got a couple beautiful vehicles, nice property up in the woods of New Hampshire. Showed me his custom cars. We had a good chat, shooting the shit. And he even, and he immediately said to me, he goes, this, and I said, I got no question. He goes, he asked me, you want to check it out? I said, yeah, I pulled the drawers open and said, yeah, I could see from the picture. I mean, it's $75, even if a few of the drawers were banged up, I'd have no problem with it. And he laughed and he goes, I put it on there just to have, sell it for something. And he goes, and it's amazing. I got about 200 responses, and every one of them was almost annoying. And he goes, for you, we're just cut and dry. And he's like, so I looked at your profile, and the thing he said to me was, I immediately said, well, wow, here's somebody I won't mind having stop by my house. That's what you want. That's the way you want to be perceived, guys. And again, I'm telling you all this to explain how I do things and why things are typically working in my favor every time. Like I said, 200 people responded to his ad, and he immediately responded back to me, and here I go, boom, the next day I got the toolbox hassle free. It is because I'm considerate, and I look at the other person's point of view when I deal with people, and I'm not trying to get over on anybody. What am I going to try and knock $5 off of the $75, $1,000 toolbox for $75? No, you give him the $75, and you make it so it's easy for him, because he's not making a lot of money off it. And the guy's got, literally $1 million in vehicles in his driveway. He's not doing it for the money. He's doing it for the room in his garage, and he just wants to have something on it. So you want to be the one person that's not annoying and aggravating, and that's how you get ahead. This is how you build relations. Matter of fact, the guy followed me on my Facebook and asked me to follow him on his. Wants to keep in touch. We're both into cars. We're both into Harley Davidsons. And he buys and sells a ton of stuff. And he's like, hey, if you're looking for anything else, let me know. I go to all these different auctions. I'll literally, look out for something for you. This is how you build relationships. This will probably end up being a friend of mine for the next 20 years because we have similar interests and we do similar things. And it's literally just because of the way that I portrayed myself in a 5-minute interaction. The guy decided he wants to have, and continue to get to know me. And that's fantastic. That's literally how you build network. And it's because I'm kind, considerate, and I try to consider the other person's point of view and make things easier for people every time I interact. And this is the way I'm being rewarded left and right. It's the only reason I bring these things up constantly. And that's the other thing. All right, so we'll go over my day. I had a request from my former boss to subcontract a couple of jobs for him because they're down the island. He's got no coverage, and I told him I'm not going to work for you. But if you want to sub the job out to me, you can retain the customer, not lose, and service the customer. But I'm gonna make all of the money on the job. And he was okay with that. And he'd wanted me to do a water heater save. And again, allegedly the customer never got back to him. And clearly, because they'd have no hot water anyway. They probably had somebody else do it because he couldn't service them. But he sends me a text. And he's like, oh, I scheduled a water shutdown. Because I told him Thursday I'd take another job for him. And I told him I could be there at 3 o'clock. And he tells me, oh, I scheduled a water shutdown from 12 to 2 for the building. And I'm like, Frank, I told you I would be doing it Thursday at 3 o'clock. And he kind of went back and forth. And I'm like, you know what? I was considering giving in and but here's the thing. I've got another job actually in New Hampshire. It would have been nice if I could have set up the toolbox for the morning, but the guy's not available during the day, so I didn't bother to want to be a pain in his ass. So I'm literally driving back up to New Hampshire tomorrow morning first thing to fix the heating system. And there's a good chance I may be back by 12 o'clock. But I don't know. And here's the thing. The job tomorrow in New Hampshire is my customer. So I told Frank I would do my best. And I said, but you might want to call them and reschedule that for 3 o'clock because I told you 3 o'clock and I'm sure I can get there by 3. I will attempt to get there from between 12 and 2, but I'm not making any guarantees and I'm not going to lose any sleep over it. And he's all stressed out down there now because, again, he's always under the gun. He's always getting high. He's not paying attention to what he's doing. And he forgot that I told him I couldn't be there till 3 on Thursday. Well, that's not my problem. And in the past, I would be sitting there freaking out going, well, how can I make both of them work? No, it's not my concern. I communicate clearly and I'm holding ground. And again, if I happen to be able to finish that job early and I can make it down, great. But I'm not going to lose sleep over it. That's going to be his problem, not mine. I will get there and do the job by 3 o'clock, as I told him I would. And if I get there early, great. If not, then he's going to have to figure out the water shutdown situation. I really only need to shut the water down for about a half hour. I don't think it'd be that big a deal. But again, it's one of those things. So, not my problem. There was actually an ad. This is not even when I was going. So this morning, I was doing a couple of jobs that I had scheduled, and it went well. I had a really, really good, productive morning, and I stepped out of my comfort zone, guys. Like, stuff that I've never done before. One of my customers rents property. He asked me if I'd go replace a window on a back door. Somebody had actually, well, who knows, the college kids. They punched out of a window, the back window of the back entry door to the apartment building. I'm like, of course I can do it. I've never done one before, but it's replacing it with panel glass. It's not complicated. I know I can do it. Same guy that I'm doing the shower glass doors for. So I called my glass guys. I went over and I measured it up, and I called the glass company that's making me the shower doors. And I asked them to make me an 1/8-inch safety glass window pane for a single pane entry door, and I gave them the measurements. And I get to this morning, guys, right? And again, this is a company that we've used through they do all the glass shower doors for the 2 of the people that I work for. And now I'm stepping out on my own, and then they see that now I'm going through them as well, and they know I'm going to be a customer. So I get there today, and the guy walks out and hands me the thing, and I'm like, oh, Mike, I'm going to come in and pay you for it. No, you're all set. I'm like, really? And he goes, hey, I appreciate you coming right to us for the shower doors, man. Anything, little stuff like this, we got you. So there you go. I got that one for free because, again, another good relationship. It's literally because of the way that I interact with people, guys. It's making the difference left and right in all these jobs. So I went over and I took care of that job, and I made an extra $75 because I charged $75 and said I plan on paying for the glass and the materials. More money in my pocket, right? Second job I did was I told you that 2 of the people I'd reached out now. Each offered me, asked me to come over and do schedule work for them today. The first one, was a guy who's got more money than knows what to do with. He's got no family. Literally, last time we were talking, he's got something like $27 million liquid cash in the bank. Not a big deal, but he doesn't like to spend money. The job was literally a quarter of a mile from my apartment. And I go in, and somebody had moved out of the apartment, and we asked them if there was anything wrong with the apartment before anybody else came in. They told them that whenever they used the dryer, since the dryer was repaired by the dryer company, I think the Beach Sales or Maytag come out to repair it, and it's a stackable unit in a closet, very, very tight. Well, when they pulled it out, they obviously dislodged the dryer vent, and these people have been using it the whole time. They said they could smell it, and, lint is blowing out. So I get there, and it's a pain in the ass to squeeze back there, but I knew ahead of time is a metal tape that you use for the vent, so I went and bought a roll of metal tape so I'd be prepared, not look like an idiot walking in there unprepared. So I walked in, I squeezed myself behind, and sure enough, the elbow had popped off the back of the dryer. So I cleaned it up. I grabbed a piece of tape, I put it on there, and I taped it up nice and secure, and I come back out. And typically, I get a $150 service call. Now, this is a guy who I know from working previously when I worked for a different company. And I talked to him in the past, and he told me he gave somebody else a shot that left the company, and the guy came over and charged him through the roof, and he never used him again. And I think this job was a test to see how I was going to treat him. So I'm like, you know what? I've got a relationship with the guy. I was there 5 minutes. I said, you know what, Christos, I'm not going to write up a bill for this. It's literally just popping the elbow back on. Just throw me $50 and we'll be good. And he pulled $100 out of his pocket and handed me the $100 and said, hey, I like that. That's what I was hoping you'd say. And he gave me $100. See? Sometimes it's, you gotta look at every situation, guys. Now I understand I'm running a company now. I do have to be on charge of service calls because otherwise I'll get calls like that all day. But it's kind of the old first, it's like the old adage with a drug deal. We'll give you the first hit for free to get you hooked on the drugs. Well, you got to kind of do the same thing when you got to look at the situation and understand if it's a test or whether it's a regular service call. And I think clearly this was a test to see if I was going to go in there and treat him fairly, or if I was going to come in and say, no, I'm Joe Company now. I got to charge you, X amount, blah blah. He's an old school, guy. And he's a hell of a nice guy. It's got a hell of a lot of work, and him and I get along very well. And I guarantee you that was a very smart move in my pocket. Not only did he pay me double what I asked, but I guarantee that's going to open the door for a lot of future work for me. So, guys, you always want to pay attention to what you're doing and what you're charging and who you're charging. And you got to make concessions when it makes sense. Anything is starting a business, you got to... I consider that marketing. You know what I mean? That was that little job was a marketing test to see how I was going to respond. And immediately he brought me upstairs and showed me a couple other jobs he wants me to take care of in the next couple of weeks. He's going to schedule it with a tenant. I'll come over and these are a couple of good ones. Chasing a water leak in a ceiling. It's going to involve open holes in ceilings and chasing around. And those are jobs that pay a lot of money because it's a lot of work. And because I was smart enough not to charge him $200 to tape a dry vent on, I'm going to get that kind of work, guys. So you got to be smart. You got to look at every situation differently. You always want to take care of yourself. You can't go out and give yourself away on every job. But you've got to understand when the time is appropriate to make the concession and say, hey, we're just going to call this a freebie. It's just stop by and say hi and let you know I'm here to take care of you type of deal. And it definitely worked in my favor, guys. It seems like things are working in my favor quite a bit lately because I'm paying attention, and that's literally what it comes down to. It's a matter of paying attention. I'm looking at all the variables in every situation and weighing out my options and seeing what's going to make the most sense for me down the road. Now, at the same time, I can't go to every job and start giving myself away because now customers are going to expect they can call me for anything and I'm never going to charge them anything. But there's a give and take there, and there's certain situations where I know it's the right thing to do, and I knew it was there, and clearly it worked out well. Yeah, guys, I think we'll leave it at that for the day. I literally just ran in the door from New Hampshire. I just came back with my toolbox and dropped it off at my shop, and I haven't had dinner or anything like that, so we'll call this a short video. It's actually getting up there anyway. Guys, remember, treat every situation like a test, but understand what the test is. Sometimes it's a test of whether or not you're going to be smart and play into the marketing end of things. And sometimes it's a test to see if you're smart enough to value yourself and charge what the job is worth. You got to recognize the situation you're in. When you want to be a success and you want things to thrive in your life, you got to understand you're going to play the role of about 15 different people. And it's a matter of knowing which role to play in which situation. And if you can play the right role in every situation, things go incredibly smooth. And I think that's what I've mastered this time around, is knowing which hat to wear at what time. and it's working really well for me. Guys, God loves you. I love you. Thank you so much for being here, taking time out of your day to spend it with me. Guys, please subscribe, like, share, leave a comment. I love going back and forth with the comments. You guys let me know if there's anything you guys need, anything you want, or how you doing, okay? Thank you, guys. God loves you. I love you. We'll see you tomorrow.